Hey everybody, today we are going to flip through the pages of Sega Visions, and this is the issue from August and September of 1992. Okay guys, we have a pretty significant issue of Sega Visions here, August and September of 1992. You can see the cover story is a sneak peek at Sonic 2, and we have a very ominous Dr. Robotnik in the background there. The other cover stories are Meet Yuji Naka, the man behind Sonic the Hedgehog, Tasmania maps, more Kid Chameleon maps, 10 full pages of new Sega products, a hot summer section on sports games. I like the fact that Tasmania is on the front there. That was the second Sega Genesis game that I had for my system. I had the Model 2 packed in with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 that I got for my 9th birthday in June 1993. And the first game that I actually purchased was Tasmania with birthday money. Go for the gold. U.S. Gold presents Olympic Gold, Barcelona 1992. Looks like they have a Genesis and a Game Gear port. Okay, Sega on the cutting edge. Page after info pack page with the lowdown on what's up and coming for Genesis and Game Gear and when these carts will be out and about. Here's your first peek at Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Tasmania, Little Mermaid, Home Alone 2, Streets of Rage, Batman Returns, and the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Also check out the new Game Gear titles like Shinobi 2, Streets of Rage, Chuck Rock, and David Robinson's Supreme Court. Sega interview. Before he was a spiky ball of speed, Sonic the Hedgehog was a bright idea in the mind of Yuji Naka. Meet the guy who first thought that a blue hedgehog might be cool. Okay, we have Kid Chameleon maps. We have Tasmania maps. Ayrton Senna's. Am I saying that right? Looks like it might be even misspelled there. Ayton. Senna. Super Monaco GP2. Lemmings. Bart versus the Space Mutants. Krusty's Funhouse. Atomic Runner. Dragon's Fury. Wheel of Fortune. A Game Gear review of Aerial Assault. Overheard at Sega. Eavesdrop on the latest Sega Scuttlebutt and pick up some exclusive tidbits. We have the mailbox. We have fast takes, visions and views, and around the corner. I like how they have these weird little scripts. They're little cheat codes that are sprinkled throughout the magazine instead of dedicated cheat code sections. Okay, here's our rumors column, overheard at Sega. On here they have rumors just stating the MSRP of the Sega Genesis has been lowered to $129, and they're trying to dig at Nintendo by saying 2 days later Nintendo responded by lowering the suggested retail price of the Super NES to Sega's old price of $149.95. Nice try, but you still can't play Sonic on a Super NES. Also, they had reduced the price of the Game Gear, and they discussed the base Sega Genesis without a game being $99.99. Also, they have an article where they announced the pricing and availability of the Sega CD, and they describe to you that the price is $300 or $299.95. It comes with over $300 of software, and they're advertising the fact that that $99 base system can be coupled with the Sega CD, and the whole package will only cost $400. Here we have a little tidbit. Brian Austin Green from 90210 loved his Genesis so much he bought one for Jason Priestley. Now every member of Beverly Hills 90210 has a Sega Genesis in their dressing room. Okay, here we have an ad for Sears Funtronics. I believe that was their dedicated section where they sold video games. Here we have our mailbox section, and again, cheat codes sprinkled throughout. One thing I don't like about this issue, and also the previous issue I did a read through of, the mailbox section seems like it's not really real letters from kids. It's almost all seems like bullcrap, fake letters that are asking a question, and the magazine is answering that question, but it's just like information that they want to advertise, like the sprite count of the Sega Genesis, and the how many simultaneous colors it can display, and what's the new MSRP of the Sega CD. Okay, Sega in the cutting edge. The folks at Sega are always coming up with something to make you glad you own a Sega game system. This time they're coming up with a selection of titles and peripherals that will make you wonder how you ever got along without one. Sonic 2, Batman Returns, Sega CD, Tasmania, Streets of Rage. Those are just some of the Sega products that will be appearing on retail shelves between now and the end of the year. The following pages are a first look at these new Sega products. Look for extended coverage of some of these products in future issues of Sega Visions. Here we have a small blurb discussing Sonic 2. Also, Batman Returns. It's a shame that they that game isn't a better game, because they really marketed the heck out of it. Just like everybody that sells anything marketed their Batman Returns goods around 1992 when that movie was going to be released. It was like a merchandising, I don't know what the word is, nightmare. Also, we have a blurb about Streets of Rage. It says available Christmas 92. And Tasmania, one of my favorite games. Let's read that real quick. It says, watch Taz's dust as he whirls through the Tasmanian outback, taking on whirling waterspouts, slick ice, quicksand, and subterranean tunnels. A voracious appetite and an explosive temper make Taz a force to be reckoned with. Snacks like chili peppers let him breathe fire and make it hot for his enemies. And the hungrier Taz is, the more explosive he gets in his fast blast adventure. The game recreates the Warner Brothers style of animation with music and graphics inspired by the original TV hit. Taz comes up against the same eccentric villains he does on his TV show, including Francis X, Bush Lad, Bull Gator, and Axel, and the Bush Rats. True to form, Taz holds up comic signs like ouch and uh-oh when he's in trouble. If you like your adventure games with a dose of hilarity, you'll appreciate Taz's uproarious antics. Available summer 92. And let's see here. Also, Game Gear version available fall 92. Here we have the favorite game of Game Sack, Green Dog, the beach surfer dude. Got Evander Holyfield's Real Deal Boxing, Shakan the Forever Man, X-Men, Home Alone, and Ariel, Disney's The Little Mermaid. I don't see a lot of people on YouTube talking about X-Men that often, but everybody I knew in my little school in South Florida, we were all obsessed with this X-Men game, and we all had it. It's pretty hard, and I think rather the difficulty ramps up too fast after the first level or two, but it's one of those games that just everybody had, sort of like Contra for the NES. All right, we have Tailspin. We've got the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. This is pretty cool to see here, a Dungeons and Dragons game. Warriors of the Eternal Sun. That's one I don't actually have. B-Bomb, David Robinson's Supreme Court Basketball. Okay, so I guess at the beginning of the magazine, they didn't misspell his name. I just read it wrong. It's Ayrton Senna's Super Monaco GP. If you have ever thrilled to the throaty roar of high-performance engines and the smell of burning rubber on the road, you'll appreciate the realism in this driving game. Raced on the actual tracks used in the World Championship circuit and on 3 new tracks designed by Ayrton Senna himself, the 1991 Formula One champion. Battle against 15 of the world's best in this realistic simulation. They advertise right here, a battery backup replaces the original Monaco's password feature and gives you 6 save positions so you can blast right back into the racing action. Okay, now this page exclusively shows Game Gear games. We got Shinobi 2, The Silent Fury, Streets of Rage, Aerial Assault, Chuck Rock, Defenders of Oasis, The Majors, Pro Baseball, and Wimbledon Tennis. Okay, here we have a little blurb about the Sega CD. Right here it says, audiophile quality sound. The Sega CD is a high quality audio CD player with audio specs rivaling some of the best CD players. Linked to your hi-fi system, the Sega CD will provide superior gameplay sound as well as CD plus G graphics. If anybody doesn't know what CD plus G is, it's essentially just karaoke CDs. It was something that was pretty popular at the time in the mid-90s. We have a couple ads for accessories, the cleaning gear for the Game Gear, the Genesis cleaning system, the Megafire controller. Also, we have a cordless controller, the Menacer, and the Super Wide Gear. Okay, now at this point, even though it's only 1992, they're already doing greatest hits, essentially, for the original Genesis release titles. Right here it says, for a mere $29.99 per title, you can jump into the ring with James Buster Douglas, score a touchdown with Joe Montana, or play 18 holes with Arnold Palmer. If you prefer arcade action, there's Golden Axe and Revenge of Shinobi, 2 of Sega's best-selling titles of all time. These specially priced games make it easy for you to increase your collection without depleting your reserves. Here's a pretty cool ad for Arch Rivals. That was a really popular game with the kids that I went to school with. They were big into sports games, but they kind of gravitated toward games that had some kind of hook, like Mutant League Football, or Arch Rivals was particularly popular because you could pull down people's pants in the game. Big hit with 4th graders. Okay, here's a big interview with Yuji Naka. We recently had the opportunity to visit with Yuji Naka, the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, at the Sega Technical Institute in Palo Alto, California. Naka and the original Sonic team are currently working on Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the exciting sequel planned for release later this year. The combination of Japanese programmers and artists with local resources make the development of Sonic 2 a truly exciting American-Japanese joint effort. This is amazing down here, this widescreen picture of Emerald Hill or Green Hill Zone. Radio Sega burns up the airwaves. Sega proclaims 16 weeks of summer. Turn up the volume and turn on outrageous party action all summer, because this summer belongs to Sega, all 16 weeks of it. Yeah, we know the calendar says there are only 13 weeks of summer, but we needed the extra time to cram in all of our serious summer fun. And I guess different radio stations were putting on little demos. It says, test drive a Sega Genesis. Wherever there's a hot spot to hang, you'll find radio, vans, and Genesis systems with chances to take the controls and win awesome prizes. We'll be patrolling the beaches with live remotes, dropping in on barbecues, cruising the parks, hitting the malls. You might even find us bowling a few strings at your local alley. Here we got RBI Baseball 4. Got a big spread on Olympic gold the 1992 Summer Olympics. That's probably the most boring thing I've ever seen. My apologies to anybody who's a fan of that game. More snooze fest, Wimbledon tennis. Here we have Evander Holyfield's Real Deal Boxing. That's actually a pretty cool game. I'm a big boxing fan. Here they have an actual interview with Evander Holyfield. And that is continued on page 30. Oh, well, that's the next page. Now here's a cool ad, but I believe that some of this is some of those spines are like inaccurate. I don't remember ever seeing that Super Volleyball box look like that, but I could be mistaken. Sometimes on little ads like this, you can see alternate box art. So I'm not sure if I'm correct on this one, but a lot of these ads, that's really cool to look at. Also, there's a pretty cool, really interesting VHS tape there. Championship Moments, Sega. I'd like to try to track that down on eBay and watch that. David Robinson Supreme Court. Slammin' and jammin' with David Robinson Supreme Court. And they have a Genesis version and a Game Gear version. George Foreman's KO Boxing. Also, here's a pretty cool ad for the Lemmings, a Sunsoft game. The Lemmings are here. Okay, here's a little 2-page spread that is a continuation of an article from the last issue. And this little blurb right here, it says, last issue of Visions, we showed maps of some of the early levels of Kid Chameleon, the hot new Genesis title from Sega. Kid Chameleon is such a big game, big in graphics, big in depth, and big in gameplay, that we decided to run a few more pages of maps. Alright, here's Tasmania. Again, this is strategy section of the magazine. They're just showing off some of the levels. Back in this era, they took pictures of the TV screen, but some of the magazines actually bought really high-end capture devices that would take screenshots. I'm wondering, these look pretty good, and I'm wondering if Sega had access to one of those or not, or if they just took pictures of the screen like Nintendo Power did. Okay, here's a big review on Ayrton Senna's Super Monaco GP2. It's the race of your dreams, the Grand Prix World Championship, and you have the pole position. Ahead is a treacherous course full of twists and turns, where racers will be attaining speeds of over 200 miles per hour. Following you is a pack of drivers hungry for victory. Where are you? At home, playing Ayrton Senna's Super Monaco GP2 on your Genesis. Looks like, let's see, they don't really assign it any kind of grade, although they do with Lemmings, which is a third-party title. This first-party title made by Sega for the Sega, they don't give a rating. I'm sure it's a pretty good game, but they'd probably do that just to hide the fact of some of their games being stinkers. Again, third-party title, Bart versus the Space Mutants. They assign a numbered grade. Krusty's Super Funhouse. That's actually pretty interesting that Bart versus the Space Mutants and Krusty's Super Funhouse were released right at the same time. Okay, Atomic Runner. Never played that game, that or Dragon's Fury, so I don't really have much to say about those. Wheel of Fortune. Now, my grandmother and great-grandmother were diehard Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy fans, and so I always have a soft spot in my heart. Anytime I see NES cartridge or a Genesis cartridge that is Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy, I have to pick it up. I do have a lot of fun playing the Jeopardy games with my daughter and my wife, but the Wheel of Fortune, I can't say I actually play them. Okay, here's a Game Gear review for Aerial Assault. Fast takes. These are little mini reviews. We got Jordan versus Bird. We got Devilish. Splatterhouse 2 for the Genesis. That's actually pretty cool that is in here. And they rate it with graphics. It's almost an 80 out of 100. Sound and music, right about 64 out of 100. Play controls and gameplay, that's right about 66%. And that's kind of low. That should have been up in the 90s almost. Splatterhouse 2 is one of the best games for the Sega Genesis. Depth and challenge, right around 70. And overall fun, they gave it a pretty good rating, a 75 or so. It says, this hack and slash title from Namco rates high on the grossness factor. Help Rick, Jason's cousin, save his girlfriend Jennifer from her evil kidnapper. What follows is a relentless bloodbath made up of 7 gory stages. In your travels, you get to battle all kinds of creepy crawlies as well as an assortment of bad guys and big bosses. You can pick up objects and use those to slam your opponents and splatter them all over the walls. This game definitely is not for the faint of heart, but if you like this sort of thing, and millions of Halloween and Friday the 13th fans can't be wrong, you'll have a lot of fun with it. So that's kind of a scathing review, I could say. I could tell that the people that worked at the magazine enjoyed it, but the powers that be didn't want them to promote it too heavily, because they were afraid of how graphic the game was, and they wanted to make sure that parents were informed, or at least kids knew what to expect before they bought it. Okay, we got Cyber Cop, we got Rolling Thunder, Warrior of Rome 2, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 2, Slime World, Side Pocket. I love Side Pocket on the NES. Never played it on the Genesis, but I need to give it a try. And again, an overall fun rating of almost, looks like right about 80. Paperboy and Outrun Europa. That's for the Game Gear. Okay, here's a whole section on role-playing games. Role-playing games, RPGs, are adventure games with a twist. While both games involve puzzle solving and exploration, RPGs include the additional element of character development. Your hero in an RPG may start off relatively weak and defenseless, but by the time he gets to the final level, he will have developed into a mighty warrior. The same goes for female heroes too, of course. As RPG players already know, you feel a much greater sense of involvement when you play an RPG. So that's interesting that it might be hard for some people to remember, but RPGs were a relatively new concept to Americans. Skip a page? Nope. Okay, here's a pretty cool ad for the Game Gear. Sonic, now inside Game Gear. Hold on tight. Visions and views. Sega scores against AIDS. In Sega Land, bad guys are zapped with a deft push of a button. Unfortunately, it's not that easy in our everyday world, but at Sega, we're doing what we can to help. Looks like they did a little promotion with a radio station. Sega did in tandem with a radio station to raise money for the Pediatric AIDS Foundation. Tom Kalinske, Sega's president, agrees. We hope that our support will encourage others. Life isn't all fun and games, even at Sega. That's why we want to make a difference. Okay, here they're advertising the really cool Master Gear converter. That would have blown my mind at the time had I been a Master System owner and still had my library. It would have been amazing, just the concept of playing that on the go. Okay, here's some high scores. Most likely all BS artists. Probably one of those scores is legit, and the rest are lies in my experience. Okay, here's a little page showing some of the basic names of titles, the genre of the game, and the publisher that's upcoming. Okay, on this page we have an ad to purchase Sega games direct to consumer. A couple pretty good prices on there. Okay, here we have an ad for the greatest playoffs in the NBA history, Bulls versus Lakers. I always thought that was peculiar to name a sports game after one series of NBA playoffs. I believe there's a couple others too. Maybe Bulls versus Blazers and Lakers versus Celtics for the Genesis. Anyway, that will complete the this issue of Sega Visions. On the back they have the Power Clutch SG. Grab the clutch and feel the power. The ultimate joystick for the Sega Genesis. The supersonic control system for turbo power propulsion. Adjustable turbo control for each button means maximum power at your fingertips. Slow motion control buys you time to get out of those tight spots. Compact size puts performance power in your hands. That is September 1992 for Sega Visions. Have a good one, guys.